Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum.
Welcome back to the Red Text Podcast. My name is Voga, and I am Voga Lumicente on Instagram.
And I am Rai, aka the Mestizo Mystic on Instagram. How you doing today, Voga?
I'm doing well. This is the second time we've had to record this fucking episode.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Mercury.
Listen, yeah, are we?
I was just gonna say Mercury. We're not even in retrograde.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like we're not due for a couple of months. I think. Anyways, that doesn't matter. Listen, our prior platform was giving us so many issues. We've been, but we're on a new platform now. But I hopefully feel better because we are on a new platform. Hopefully, this one doesn't give us any problems. Fuck Zencaster. Just, if anyone wants to be a podcaster, don't use Zencaster. It's fucking garbage.
Yeah. We're Riverside gang now.
Yeah, we're Riverside gang for now. Let's see what happens. But I'm okay. I am currently going through like this really big reset. I don't know if you've ever done this before, where you kind of every couple of months or every year or whatever, you do like a reset. Some people call it like spring cleaning, but it's like a reset of my entire life. Like I'll visit like different aspects of my life when it comes to like my physical space, my spiritual life, my finances, my job, my career, my relationships, and I'll revisit everything, see where maybe I have some opportunities, and then, fix what needs to be fixed. And then also at the same time kind of celebrate the things that worked out. So I'm in the middle. Well, I'm not actually in the middle of it. I'm almost done of my like reset of my space. And the last thing I have to do is reset my altar or my workspace. I mentioned in one of our episodes that I'm going away from calling it an altar because it doesn't really act as an altar anymore. It acts more of a workspace for my witchcraft. I don't really have a devoted altar anymore. More or less, like the workspace still acts like an altar sometimes, but it's more than an altar now. Now that I've become so much more. I don't know, just working more. Just being the bitch that I am. So now this is like the last thing I need to reset before midnight tonight, which is still going to happen. I don't have that much to do, and I'm going to do a little bit of working at the new space, and then I have some work to do, some editing to do, and some computer work. But it's really good to kind of reset. I do like little resets every week. Usually on Sundays, like Sundays are my reset days to do laundry and to do all of those things, to do a spiritual cleanse. But this one's a big one, a big reset where I access or assess every part of my life as much as I possibly can and try to fix things that need to be fixed or celebrate the things that are working really, really well.
How often do you find yourself doing the big resets? Like, do you notice it happens like every other year or at certain like points of the year?
I don't have like a whole thing where I'm just like, I need to do a reset every 6 months or whatever. It's usually just when I'm called to do it. It just so happens that this one lands really close to my birthday. So at the time of this recording, it's close to my birthday. So I just thought that like moving towards my birthday was just a really good time for me to kind of, it's a good kind of starting point for me, so I can kind of recall from this time of the year to next time of the year to be like what worked and what didn't, you know. And I'm recording everything, I'm writing everything down, so I can kind of keep track. But yeah, I it's usually just when I get called to do it. I hadn't done it in several years. The pandemic was a really big part of it, but I started doing things like this like in my early 20s, when like my whole entire life would fall apart, and I just want a clean slate, so I would just reset everything. And it was really beneficial because like I figured out, I was like, oh, I don't have to do this when my life is falling apart. I can just do this all the time, because it's good maintenance, you know, it's good physical, mental, and spiritual maintenance. And it works very, very well. It works very, very well. And it kind of helps grow your self-awareness. So I really, really like it. And it makes me excited to kind of feel like I'm starting fresh, you know? So it's kind of like a New Year's resolution somewhat in some ways. But it's really setting myself up for a good year. So, and I think it lands really, it's interesting that it lands so close to my birthday, because like, you know, I say this all the time. So many friends are Satanists, and your birthday is like the most important day of the year to a Satanist. And I have become so much more, I used to not like celebrating my birthday. I really usually don't really care about my birthday. But within the last couple of years, I've actually really enjoyed celebrating my birthday, like actually planning and like getting people together to celebrate my birthday. I don't know what I'm going to do this year yet, but, you know, it's just, I don't know. It's nice. It's nice to just start from fresh, and it's very okay to do that.
Yeah. You're already past your Saturn return period, right?
Yeah, I think about it. I forgot what the actual...
It ends around 31.
Yeah, but you can actually pinpoint a date to it.
Oh.
I just don't know. I don't remember what it was. It usually lands between 31 and 32. So it's usually every 30 something years. So the next time I'm going to have another Saturn return is going to be in my 60s. But yes, I have passed my Saturn return, and good God, I'm so happy it's over.
I'm just starting mine.
I know you're 20.
I'm turning 27.
7. Yeah, that's when it starts. Good luck, girl. It's not fun, but it's very it's necessary. It's well, you don't have a choice, but like it's you learn a lot. You learn a lot about yourself, and that's, you know, my Saturn return was when it's when I started practicing again, like heavily. So, I mean, because I started my practice when I was in my mid-20s, like a little bit younger, like 24 or 25, something like that. It was right around where I graduated, when I got my undergrad. Yes, I graduated college very late, because I took a long break after high school.
That's fine. No shame with that.
No, not at all. And I'm happy I did it, actually. But so my spiritual practice started around that time, and like the tail end of it is when I found witchcraft, and that's where everything just topsy-turvy, everything just turned on its head. So you learn a lot about yourself. You realize who isn't on your side anymore. You're going to lose a lot of people. That's not fun. That's not a lot of fun when you lose a lot of people. You're going to start to see like a really, really significant friendship, 2 friendships that I had growing up. Like, these are friends that I had since freshman year of high school. They just are no longer my friends anymore. And which is sad. I was really sad about it then, but now I know that there was a reason why. And we are all the same age. So our Saturn returns were at the same time.
So that was a lesson for all of y'all.
Well, I realized that I wasn't for them and they weren't for me. anymore. So it wasn't that was not a one-sided thing. It was definitely something that happened to the both of us.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, how are you?
I'm all right. Life has been pretty fucking turbulent. Even though I'm on summer break from school right now, like, I still feel like my nervous system is just so shot, both from school and like extreme burnout with my job, which I'm excited to say by the time this episode is released and y'all are listening to it, I'll have left my job, which I've been at for over 6 years. And if I haven't shared before, I work in retail banking. So I work as they've hybridized like teller and banker responsibilities. So like I'm very much a lot of both, not really one or the other. And so I work for one of the biggest banks, not just in the country, but in the world. And the reason they're so rich is because they overwork us and underpay us. That's how they stay rich. And I'm just at my breaking point. And so I luckily am privileged.
I've never heard of
enough-
that before, of a corporate company maximizing profits and not paying their staff. Of course, I've never heard of that. That's new.
Yeah, who would have thought, right?
Who would have thought?
Who would have thunk? Not me. But yeah, so I'm privileged.
Not the Paul Rudd reference. Get out of here.
Oh man, it's so fine. Anyways, I'm privileged enough that I've saved up enough money as well as my student loans that I can be comfortably unemployed for the next handful of months until I find new work. But during that time while I'm unemployed, I'll be just solely focusing on school as well as really vamping up my content creation and trying to make that also like a full-time gig and starting to offer like really seriously advertised tarot services. And I really want to get into offering spell work as well, because there's a lot of spell work that I've grown very confident in that I feel confident enough to offer that for others.
What spell work are you planning on offering? I'm curious.
I did a healing group ritual once that had like crazy results. And then I feel like my prosperity magic tends to be pretty fire. So I would feel comfortable offering a prosperity ritual, road opening work. I'm trying to think of what other candles I have on hand right now that I'd be cool doing work for. It's really road opening, money and prosperity, and healing and protection tend to be my current areas of my current strong suits that I feel confident enough offering to others. And then obviously as I get more experience under my belt doing spell work for myself, I'll, branch out and offer more. But yeah, so I'm really excited to hopefully start offering that soon. I want to start crafting my own candles, like, from the wax up and pouring my own candles, and just really taking the time during being unemployed to start establishing healthy routines and structures for myself that I've been putting off due to work and school. Like, I haven't worked out in forever. I barely ever cook anymore, and so I want to get back into all of these things while I'm unemployed, even while I'm in school as well, because I just know it's going to better, my physical health, my mental health, my spiritual health. So I'm really looking forward to quitting this job, which as of today of this recording will be by the end of next week, which it just feels like a huge weight is about to come off my fucking shoulders. But aside from that, I've been really into this one book by this group called the Gallery of Magic. You can find a lot of their books on Amazon. The specific book is written by, I think, Damon Brand, and it's called Archangels of Magic, or Magic of Archangels, one of those two titles. And the thing I like about his books and the books from this group is that they make magic like really, like they just, I don't want to say dumb it down, but they make it extremely practical. They kind of skip over, theology, history, folklore, all of like the really dense stuff, which, not to say it's not important, but like the reason their stuff is simplified and practical is because they've found that it just works. And I can attest to that. Some of their books I read when I first started my practice back in like 2018, before I even got into full Catholicism. I think it was their book called like Words of Power, and got really quick and pretty good results with that. So I'm excited now, with all of my background in full Catholicism and the magic that I have done, re-engaging with their works now, to engage with Archangel magic, because they're not as elusive and difficult to work with as one might seem. Like, you don't need a whole fucking Solomonic ritual or 6-month cleansing to work with archangels. So I'm really excited to do that. But yeah, other than that, I've been good, aside from my lower back pain, because, I'm getting old, but oh well.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. That was God telling me to shut the fuck up. I'm excited for you. That sounds like a blast. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be hard, but it sounds like it's going to be a blast because you get to actually do things that you actually enjoy. I mean, with the amount of time that I spend at work, I wish I didn't.
Oh, 100%.
40 hours a week. It's a lot of fucking time to go to a place that you would prefer not to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sounds really exciting. I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see you grow.
Thank you.
Especially business-wise. I love a professional, which I love seeing people grow professionally.
I can't wait. I'm gonna get some advice from a really great friend and very large content creator soon. So that's gonna be really really empowering and yeah, I just look forward to it. But I also look forward to what we're talking about today, which is cultural appropriation and differentiating appropriation from appreciation. When is gatekeeping necessary? When is it too much? Where do we start?
Well, I think we should start with defining what it is.
Yeah. Do we want to just define it, both of us, like how we view appropriation?
Sure. Because I think it's kind of it's weird. Okay. It's a real thing. Okay, it exists. I'm not going to sit here and deny that it's not something that is experienced by us as a society, especially here in the United States, because we're really good at it. And when I say we, I just as a whole, I think it's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to defining cultural appropriation. I think people have different definitions as to what they find as appropriative. Mm-hmm. I know that there are a lot of unhinged people that I would disagree with. I'm just like, I think you need to calm down. But there are also a lot of folks who are, they have a valid point where they're saying, and it's like, listen, it feels like you're stepping on some toes, and maybe you should take a step back and maybe analyze what you're doing before you move forward. And there are different examples of what it means to appropriate a culture. You can appropriate cultures in different ways. You can appropriate a culture, you can appropriate a religion or a spiritual practice. You can appropriate textiles. There are folks who are appropriating clothes from all over the world and calling it something else and profiting off of it. Like, how many times have you gone on ASOS and seen something called a kimono?
Right.
When it actually isn't a kimono, like a beach kimono, which is everywhere, right? They call it a kimono, when it actually isn't. But, there is nuance to this conversation. There are different opinions that need to be heard, and there are conversations that need to be had. And I think that's what's important when it comes to distinguishing whether something is appropriation or appreciation, is having a conversation and providing the grace to someone that might have unintentionally offended somebody. Because I've said this before, it's not my job to decide whether I offended somebody or I offended you. It's not my job to decide whether you should be offended or not. If you are, you are. But it is, I think, someone's responsibility, if they are claiming that something that I did was offensive, to teach me if I don't know. If I'm unaware and I might have made a mistake, I think that grace is really, really important. And I think that should be provided, because I try my absolute best to provide the grace. And grace is just, for anyone who's wondering, because I know I've said that a lot, providing grace. Providing grace is just a fancy word of saying giving the benefit of the doubt. Just right. Give the room. Give the room to learn, to teach, to have a conversation.
A dialogue.
A dialogue, exactly. Because like everything that we talk about, everything is nuanced. There's cultural context that is important. There is not just cultural in regards to how you identify, but also where you are physically. Things that exist here in the United States are not okay in different countries, and vice versa. So I think it's important to have the conversation in regards to what is appropriative, and then also learn when it does happen, why and how to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. Snaps to all of that. I agree with all of that. I think what distincts I think what appropriation is, rather than appreciation, is not giving the proper honor and respect to the roots of whatever it is that you are engaging with or engaging in, right? Like, if you want to learn hoodoo and you're not black or African, like, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to say don't do that. But what channels are you going through in order to learn that? Are you going to learn that from some white person who just took some like certified course online and claims to be a hoodoo practitioner? Or are you actually going to go out of your way to talk to black people, to talk to people of African descent, to find those teachers in that tradition that are willing to share that tradition with you? Because, you know, there is so much calling out online versus calling in. And the difference between the two is that calling in allows a dialogue. Calling out doesn't get anything done. It doesn't get anyone anywhere other than giving people a little bit of like a pat on their own back, right? Like, oh, I'm calling you out because you did something wrong. Okay, that's great. Like, now what? Versus calling in of like, hey, I noticed you doing or saying this. Here's why that can be hurtful or offensive, or harming others or this culture in some certain way. So like you mentioned, Voga, like there needs to be dialogues, and that can only happen when we forgive ourselves if we're the ones who made a mistake. Sorry, my cat is all over me. Hold on. Go. Oh, fuck, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought I turned my mic off.
That is staying in the Patreon edit. I'm just letting you guys know that Rye is a cat abuser.
No.
Oh my god.
Where was I? Fuck, what was I saying?
You were talking about the dialogue.
Yeah, so calling out versus calling in. Calling in allows a dialogue and it allows change to happen, whereas calling out doesn't help make any progress, right? And I think call out culture and cancel culture lean also heavily into gatekeeping and appropriation, because I think gatekeeping is necessary to an extent, but then gatekeeping in the wrong way of like just being a social justice warrior thinking you're doing the right thing can end up leading to like segregation and even more like racist perpetuation and views. Because if you're, let's say, a white person,
100% agree.
What?
I mean, I was just about to
Yeah.
say, it's like, it's so much more dangerous to not learn about all of these cultures
Yeah.
and what's happening around you. Yeah.
exactly, because like we need cultural exchange. We live in a time where we can communicate with a person in another country in a snap of a second, right? Like in a snap of our fingers, in the blink of an eye, whatever. Whereas we cannot do that, like, you know, decades ago, or maybe decades, but at least like, you know, centuries ago. And so we're allowed to exchange, or we're able to exchange information and traditions and cultures that may have never been able to be shared with between our ancestors centuries ago. And so to say like, oh, like if I tell someone they're not Filipino, so they can't read about Filipino pre-colonial traditions or Filipino magic or anything like that, all that's going to do is harm that person by not allowing them to understand my culture more. Versus if I see someone claiming that they're, you know, a Filipino witch or a mangukulam that can do, you know, like Filipino magic, but they're like white and have no Filipino lineage and aren't willing to show where they learned that from or how they learned it, I'm going to gatekeep. I'm going to be like, first of all, what you're doing or saying may not be true. Secondly, like, you know, if you truly learned this from a Filipino source, like share that. Yeah, just like appropriation doesn't take into consideration the honor towards whatever it is that you're engaging or participating with. And
No, appropriation implies that you are deciding that you claim ownership over whatever it is, which is appropriative. You are stealing. Okay, because what, like, the difference between appropriation and appreciation is theft, and appreciation is sharing. It's borrowing. It's being able to, you know, see something, wear something, do something that belongs to a certain group of people that you don't belong to, and honoring those people and honoring the reasons why that exists. and also being hyper aware of why those things might have been disenfranchised, why they might have been scrutinized by the vast white patriarchy. That's really, really important. I'm going to just take it out of the spiritual context just for a second. I'm going to make it a little bit more political. Because, I mean, inherently this conversation is political. Because about a couple months ago, I wanted to install locks into my hair. And if folks don't understand, don't know what locks are, they're basically they're matted hair that is basically formed into locks that are really pretty. Basically, that's all I want to say. They're stunning. It's a very specific hairstyle that in some cases, now I'm not going to make this a broad statement because it's not always true, but it exists in different parts of the world. It doesn't, that kind of hair style or the way the hair is worn exist in different cultures. Okay. But specifically, it is something that has been a conversation in regards to the Black community. Okay. And I want to also differentiate the difference between locks and dreadlocks. And we if you know what dreadlocks are the kind of the same idea where it's matted hair. It usually it's more naturally matted. It's just hair that is naturally matted if it's kept unbrushed or not necessarily ungroomed, but just you just let the mat up, right? It mats up naturally. And also dreads are typically spiritual or religious. What I'm talking about, what I wanted to have installed into my hair were faux locks or locks. And these are typically worn as a protective hairstyle by Black folks. And they're so beautiful. I think they are the coolest fucking thing ever. Like they're so cool. They're very, very cool. But like I said, there are folks in India that have locks. That is also a spiritual practice. I don't know if they call it dreads there, but the same kind of matted hair, the hair style it exists in India. It exists in some parts of Asia, which also is India, but more like Eastern Asia, like the Philippines, and Polynesian cultures, and some European, not all. And I want to make that very clear. Not all Europeans. I want to make that very, very clear. And so it exists on everywhere. But the main point is that Black folks are the ones who have been scrutinized and basically demonized for having that kind of a hairstyle. So that's the important part that everyone needs to understand is, regardless of where it exists, Black people are who are being attacked for basically having this hair, seeing it as being unprofessional, can't wear it at your workplace, and people have lost jobs because they have locks in their hair, etc., etc. They've been called dirty or ugly or whatever, and there are definitely racist. There are racist foundations in this conversation, obviously. So I wanted to go into wanting to install locks because the number one reason was because it looks fucking cool. They're so beautiful. And the second reason is I knew they were going to look really good on me. That's the reason why. I wanted to try them out.
They did.
Thank you very much. Yes, they did. They looked awesome. And I'm very happy I did it, and I'm still no regrets. I thought they were so beautiful. I had so much fun with them, and I'm going to do it again because they were so much fun. They were so much fun to have, and they truly are a stunning look. They're really, really beautiful. If anyone ever gets a chance to install locks in your hair, they're so much fun. I have never gotten more compliments on my hair than when I had locks on my hair.
Even from strangers on the street.
Even from strangers on the street, and we're going to talk about them on the post show. We need to talk about it on the post show. I want to remember talking about that because that was so bizarre. That was the most terrifying compliment I've ever gotten in my life. That was so strange. Anyways, but I was nervous. I have to admit, I was nervous about wanting to install locks in my hair because I have an online presence. It's a small presence, but it is an online presence. And I also, like I said before, it's not up to me to decide whether I offend somebody, especially one of my friends online, or someone who follows my account. And I didn't want to be seen as someone who would blatantly just do that for the sake of aesthetics, even though that's the reason why I wanted to do it, was because I knew it was going to look cool. So what I did was I did research. I opened up my computer. I typed in Google and I gathered information. I learned as much information as I possibly could. I read forums, I read articles about the conversation of cultural appropriation when it comes to locks and dreadlocks, because the two are kind of confused with each other all the time. So I gathered the information, and then second, I talked to folks in the community. So folks in the community who are attacked and scrutinized for having this certain hairstyle are mostly black folks. So I spoke to people in the community. I spoke to my friends online, specifically our friend Juju, and I spoke to people in real life. And I actually used my resources, and I spoke to my patients. I spoke to my black patients, and I spoke to their family members and asked them how they thought about non-black folks wearing locks in their hair. And majority, actually all of them, were just like, I don't care. Like, do whatever you want. It's fine. I think there's a little bit of, there is a cultural warrior culture online that people kind of, they kind of look for that, and they want to call people out, because I think that's what their content is kind of that's what it's founded on, is being able to, their content is really just geared towards canceling people. I know that. I'm very aware of it. But I wanted to get to the people who this could potentially affect. Like, not the trolls online, but the people in the community. And then like I said, I spoke to our friend Juju, who is African American. And I approached them very, very respectfully. I hope I did. I was just like, I need to ask you a very sensitive question. And I want to know your opinion. And they were very gracious and very kind and very gentle about what their opinion was. And what their opinion was basically, they told me everything that I looked up, everything, the history of locks and dreadlocks, and the struggles that black folks have had to have by having that hairstyle, and why it's important, why that conversation is important. And I'm very aware of it. I understand that I am choosing to put something on myself, on my body, that has effectively actually damaged the black community because of the white patriarchy, and because of corporate America, and etc., and because of racism, obviously.
You did the work.
Yes, I did the work. So basically what Juju said was like, listen, at the end of the day, there are folks who do have dreadlocks for a spiritual reason, but there are also black folks who have locks in their hair because it's cute. They rock it because it's a hairstyle. So take that for what it is, take that information. And they said to me, I would love for you to have it. Like, you would look amazing with it, but be ready for scrutiny. And I was like, scrutiny I can take, that I can do, because I have the information, I can defend myself. I did the work, I reached out to the community, and then they were like, you took every avenue that you were supposed to take. You spoke to people in the community, you bought your hair from a black owned business, and then also you had your hair installed by a black loctician. So you're supporting black the black community by doing these. You did everything that you could possibly do to support our community, and you rocked it, and you looked gorgeous, and you looked stunning. So it's like,
Yeah.
what else could you possibly do? That is what I'm talking about. That is cultural appreciation. I did it because it was stunning. And I never called it anything that it wasn't. I called it exactly what they were. They were locks.
Right.
And I wore them with pride. I truly did. I was really feeling my oats for those 3 weeks when I had them in. I had to eventually take them out because they were slipping off. The bands were starting to snap, which really broke my heart because I wanted them on for a little while longer. But yeah, so that's my little political example as to how you can properly do it. Now, if I didn't do enough, please tell me if I didn't do enough, because I would love to know what else I could possibly do to potentially help and bring awareness. Also, if you don't think it's appropriate, then tell me why. Tell me why it's not appropriate, and we can have a conversation. Like, provide the grace, provide the room, give the space to have the conversation.
Yeah. I have an experience with appropriation from a couple years ago where there is this spiritual business, and they're called Serpentine Spiritual Arts on Instagram, I think, and I'm going to follow that up as to why I'm calling them out. / calling them in. But there's another business, Latina operated and owned, called Brujas Botanica. And I forgot the owner's name, but she has some apparel and merchandise that said protected by Santa Muerte on it. Now, need I remind y'all, Santa Muerte is Mexican. Her roots are from Mexico, and she is the patron of the marginalized and oppressed, especially Mexican folks, but all of those who are marginalized and oppressed, which is mainly people of color. And this group, Serpentine Spiritual Arts, was enacting litigation against Brujas Botanicas, trying to say that Serpentine Spiritual Arts had a trademark, I believe it was the right term, a trademark on like the phrase protected by Santa Muerte, which is, in and of itself a prayer used by everyone that's a devotee, basically, right? Like, it's almost like as if I tried to patent the Our Father prayer, which is just like so fucking asinine. And so
it's fucking absurd. It's
absurd.
It's so stupid to think that you can trademark anything that belongs to a spirit. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Right. I can't even. And like, these are people who also claim that they work with Santa Muerte. So I'm like,
please.
Like, you're gonna incur her wrath so hard, and I can't wait to see how that turns out for you. But yeah, that
First
happened.
Of all, it's very clear that you're not guided by her, because she would never guide you into suing someone who is an actual devotee. Like,
right, exactly. And so I think Brujas Botanicas came out on top, if I remember correctly, from that, which, like, as she should. But it was just so irritating to see this business owned and operated by what I perceive as white people. I don't know if they have any like BIPOC heritage or backgrounds, but they are very white. And they also claim to have like their hand in every pot. Like the two owners of Serpentine Spiritual Arts are Jennifer Midway and Yaya Longo. Okay. Anyways, Jennifer is a Sansista, I think. And then the other person, Yaya, is what does it say? Oh, they're partners. Jennifer's wares include authentic handmade voodoo, conjure, witchcraft, Santa Muerte, ceremonial magic, and brujeria ritual tools, oils, bone and curio divination collections, blessed spirit jewelry, and amulets, fixed candles. Okay, see, like, that's a run-on sentence, like, with so many commas, just saying, like, all of these
we do it all
things.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know her spiritual lineage. I don't know who she got initiated into Santeria by, or whether or not that's true. But both of these people, as I'm looking at it on their about page on their website, are white as snow.
Well, okay, here, wait, let me see. Okay, what do you think about what I'm about to say? Even if they were BIPOC, do you think that they have the right to trademark anything when it comes to...
No.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, is even if they were just obviously people of color, if they look like you and me, Do you think that you and I have the right to trademark something that belongs to a spirit?
No,
No.
absolutely not. And that's existed for centuries. I mean, I can't say how long Santa Muerte's been around. I mean, her cult really began to flourish in the 70s and 80s. But for instance, like if we tried to trademark the Hail Mary so no one could put that on any type of apparel or merchandise, that'd be so fucking stupid because it goes back centuries ago. Probably like a millennia or whatever. That's like 1,000 years, right? But anyways, I think...
Yeah.
I think even if they were BIPOC, I think the important matter here is that it's even more harmful because they're white. Like this is absolute ignorance and privilege to think that you can trademark a prayer that belongs to, I mean, everyone, right? Like you can't trademark something that everyone uses that has no, you know, at least as far as I know, no original source. Like we all, a lot of devotees will say that we're protected by Santa Muerte. So to try to trademark that is just fucking absurd. So that was the thing that came to mind for me in terms of appropriation.
It also goes to show that queer people can be idiots too. Okay, don't trust them don't inherently trust them just because they're queer. Don't trust them because they're I don't know if they identify as women. Don't trust them just because they're women. Don't trust them because they potentially might be people of color. Like everyone has the capacity to be idiots. So, anyways.
Yeah. So yeah, as we said before about other content creators, be wary of false prophets and use discernment. But I really would love to hear you share your story of Mahjong, because that was also a very clear example of appropriation.
God, that really fucking bothered me. I was so mad. I was so mad. Goodness. Okay, so this happened. I don't know if they even exist anymore, but this happened, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where I came across, someone sent it to me. A friend of mine, because I have, so Mahjong, let me just say, we don't pronounce it Mahjong. We call it Mahjong, in the Filipinos. Mahjong is something that is very culturally significant in the Philippines. It's not Filipino. It didn't originate in the Philippines. It actually originated in China. It's a Chinese game. But it is something that was shared to a lot of people, not just the Philippines, but a lot of cultures around the world. Actually, the reason why it exists here in the United States is because of Jewish people on the East Coast. They actually brought it to the United States, and that's
I never knew that.
It was actually Jewish people who brought Mahjong. Well, they didn't bring it. They made it popular. Like Chinese immigrants on the East Coast would come and they would teach Jewish people on the East Coast how to play, and then Jewish people made it really popular. Like it exploded, and that's how it became. I know. I read a really fascinating article about it several years ago. It's really, really interesting. But in the Philippines, a lot of people play Mahjong. Mahjong is a very, very culturally significant game in the Philippines. A lot of people know how to play, and one of those people are my Lola, who is. It's incredible how fucking good this woman is at Mahjong. It's crazy. There are two things that my Lola has that are her legacy. These are the two things that she's going to leave behind to her grandkids. It's Mahjong and her biko. And if people don't know what biko is a dessert, a Filipino dessert. Because her biko recipe is the best in the entire world. I don't care who says there's no other biko in the world that's better than my grandma's. Anyways, she wanted to teach all of her grandkids, all her kids, so like my mom, my uncles, my aunts, how to play, as well as her grandkids, because this is something that is very significant, not just within Filipino culture, but also our family. So all of our cousins know how to play. I know how to play. I'm obsessed with the game. I taught my friends how to play, and my friends are obsessed with the game. They always ask me when we're going to play next. And I want to at one point talk about Mahjong and how much I love this game. It is.
You got to teach me. I would love to play.
It is addicting. It is such an addicting game. It's so addicting to play Mahjong. It's so much fun. But anyways, so just personally to me, Mahjong, it represents my grandmother. It represents my family. It also represents my people. Even though it's not inherently Filipino, it's Chinese. It's still very significant in the Philippines.
Cultural exchange.
And there was this company that was run by this white woman here in the United States who learned how to play Mahjong from her grandmother. And she loves the game. And she developed, I don't even want to call it Mahjong because it's not Mahjong. She developed something very similar to Mahjong where it has tiles, but she changed everything. She changed everything that was Chinese about that game, she took out. So Mahjong has 4 suits, okay? It has balls, bamboo characters, which are Chinese characters, and no, those are 3 suits. Those are 3 suits: balls, sticks, or balls, bamboo, and characters. She decided to take all of the characters out, all of the Chinese characters, which represents numbers, by the way. They're just 1 through 9, all Chinese characters. She took all of those out and replaced it with something much more, I don't know, recognizable by English speakers. So like
simplified
lightning bolts, or I don't even remember what the other ones were, but like she took everything that was Chinese out of it. She still called it Mahjong, but she took everything that was Chinese out of it and sold sets. Like she manufactured Mahjong sets, Mahjong quote unquote sets, and sold them. And these sets were like upwards of like $600 to $800 per set. Mind you, if you go to Chinatown and you wanted to buy a Mahjong set, a really good Mahjong set is like $150 to $300. Okay? And these are actually Chinese, made in China. And this one was manufactured here in the United States, sold by a white woman who was profiting thousands and thousands of dollars off of a culture that did not belong to her, and also changed it. Took everything that actually belonged to the culture out of the game and sold it for a profit. And I made this point before. I don't care how much. You could have sold it for $10 per set. I don't care. You're still making a profit off of a culture that does not belong to you. You stole it, changed it, turned it into something else, and called it Mahjong when it wasn't, because Mahjong is Chinese, and you took everything Chinese out of it and sold it to people. And I actually read her mission statement on her website and said, I wanted to make Mahjong more accessible and more recognizable to more people. I don't speak Chinese. I don't speak Mandarin or Cantonese. And I understand Mahjong because I learned. I know what the characters mean. I know what all of them look like. I know I recognize them because I learned. I didn't need anyone to change it for me to learn how to play the game.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it was so ridiculous, and it was really just an excuse to profit off of something that she knew she could make a lot of money on. You know, which I'm pretty sure she did. But God, that really pissed me off, because that's so personal to me. That felt so personal to me, because something that I'm really going to, when my grandmother becomes my ancestor, that is an offering I'm going to be giving to her, is my ability to teach people how to play, because that's what she gave to me, was being able to play that game. You know, I want to teach people, I want to teach my friends, I want to teach, if I ever have them, I want to teach my kids how to play. And it's like, this is what your great grandmother taught me. You know, it's like, that's very personal to me, and someone attacked it, stripped it of everything that it stripped its identity, gave it a new one, and made money off of it.
Such bullshit. It's literally colonizer behavior.
Literally.
Yeah. And I think that's like where you can see such a distinct difference between appropriation and appreciation, right? When you're appreciating something, you're not going to devalue it or capitalize upon it, especially when it doesn't belong to you or any cultures that you have ties to.
Exactly. Okay. You know what that says to me? What she did when she stripped everything Chinese out of that game is that this is not good enough. I'm going to make it better. Mm-hmm. How that is so obscene to do. It is so obscene to do that to something so, first of all, something that's been played for thousands of years. And this white woman decides to change that. Who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you?
Yeah, it makes me think, recently I saw this TikTok of someone saying like, oh, I recently developed these like, what was it? It was like these feta spinach like flatbread things, but they were basically just arepas. And and people on Twitter were like, oh, great, white people have discovered arepas, because she was like playing it off as if it was like some special flatbread that she had developed herself.
What are white people doing on TikTok when it comes to their food? I literally just saw a lady make pasta in a casserole dish in the oven.
Mm-hmm.
It was
That's disgusting.
so offensive. It was so offensive. Like, she took dry pasta, put it in a casserole dish, put like tomato sauce, tomato paste, cheese, salt and pepper, and water, and baked it in the oven.
I think I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Obscene. It was so offensive to me. I was like, what are white people doing?
Yeah.
What are people doing?
Absolutely not.
Sounds about
Absolutely
white.
not. Sounds about white. Yeah, and so, I mean, I guess, like, the whole... What am I trying to say? If you want to appreciate and not appropriate, do your research, do the work, talk to people of the cultures of which you're trying to learn something, right? Like, if you're trying to learn Mexican brujeria, don't go to Sally on the corner of the block who claims that she does Mexican brujeria. Like, go seek out a teacher of Mexican descent who hopefully can also show you their lineage and tell you where they got their teachings from. Because, let's be real, there's also BIPOC out there who are scammers who will claim that they come from some long-lost lineage of some fucking, I don't know, random Egyptian prince, right? And so they're trying to teach you magic or something, you know? I don't know, I thought
you hit a little bit close. You hit a little bit close to home for me. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Wait, what?
Those motherfuckers, there are motherfuckers who act like that here in LA.
Oh, yeah.
You know one of them. I talk about one of them a lot.
But, oh my God.
If you know, you know. I'm not going to say anything.
My cat is just great. Usually she's not this affectionate, but she is really wanting attention right now.
Did you decide to shower today? Maybe that's why.
You know, the reason we took so long to get to recording tonight is because Voga was taking half an hour with her big meaty claws to get her nails on.
Big, meaty
claws! What the fuck, cat?
See? That spirit being like, how dare you make fun of such a beautiful, cunty human being?
Yeah, like, for instance, for me, like, I took a 6-month intensive course online, not in person, with Alexis Arredondo from City Alchemist, because he, living on the Tex-Mex border, like, learned about the Culta de Santa Muerte, like, from actual, you know, Mexican people in that area. And so really close ties to, like, the actual, you know, country of Mexico. And even though that was 6 months long, and I learned so much valuable information and a lot of information you won't find on the internet or in books, I don't claim to be an expert or a teacher of Santa Muerte or her magic or her tradition, right? Like, I always honor my teachers and the information that I learned, and give homage to that. And I always, when I can remember where I learned something, I always do my best to, you know, cite my sources of where I learned it from. But just because I took a 6-month course on Santa Muerte doesn't mean I'm gonna suddenly start offering my own courses on Santa Muerte, you know? And that to me is also appreciation, like honoring what you learned, who and where you learned it from, and being conscious with what you're doing with that information, you know? Like,
and give credit where credit is due.
Exactly. Like, I think hoodoo is so fascinating, like the cultural complexities of it, how it developed in America, and like what it means for Black people and Black Americans. But if I'm going to go out and take a course on hoodoo, you know, if I wanted to start incorporating that into my practice, I would take a step back, because I'm not Black in any way, shape, or form. I would take a step back and really question, why is it that I want to engage with these practices? Because there's nothing wrong with going out of your way to learn about someone's culture. Again, all about cultural exchange. But if you want to start participating in something that doesn't have really any ancestral ties to you, you really need to take a pause and be like, why am I so interested in this? And why do I want to explore this? And is it okay for me to explore this? And
who's
not
to
just
say that the spirits of that practice are going to even respond to you in the first place?
right, right. Like there's people online who will say like, I can tell you what Orisha is on your head through a tarot reading. That's wrong, wrong, and wrong, because the divination systems used to be in contact with like Loa and the Orishas is not through tarot. Like there are traditional methods, I think it's called Ifa, that you have to go through in order to communicate with those spirits. So that in and of itself, if someone's telling you they can talk to the Orishas or the Loa for you through tarot, like one, that's a scam, and two, that's appropriation in and of itself, because they're using a system that's completely unrelated to that tradition. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is a fine line. I think it's really important to note that if you think you are appropriating, you actually might be. So slow down, stop before you do anything, and gather your information and talk to the people. I mean, Rye and I are folk magicians. We are folk practitioners. So community is the most important part of what we do. So do that. Talk to the community. And they will tell you. It's like, yeah, this is probably not a good idea for you to do that.
Right.
And you don't have to do this. Like you can, there's probably something else that you can probably find much more beneficial. Something more efficacious. I mean, I don't know how effective it would be for me to start practicing hoodoo. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? I mean, never say never, but at the same time, it's just like, why? Like, I don't see a reason why. Like if I'm gonna be I should probably get more familiar with the Duwata than I, start working with like any sort of hoodoo practice. You know what I mean? But I mean that goes all the way back to what Rai mentioned about, why are you doing it? Is it because you find it interesting and because, you read a book that was probably not even written by someone in the community anyway?
Oh yeah, beware, like do your research if you're going to get a book, because just because a book is published under like a well-known publisher doesn't mean that it's reputable. Like there's some books circulating out there that claim to be conjure and hoodoo and root work that are ghost written by white people. So I just wanted to leave that note there. So be very conscious of where you're getting your information from. Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of people have spoken about cultural appropriation before. I know that I think Southern Bramble has spoke about cultural appropriation. I think this conversation has had its had its legs. So if you're still unsure about what it means, then keep doing the research. Keep gathering information. And then if you can't figure it out, stay in your lane. Because, it's better to be safe than sorry. You know what I mean? Stay in your lane. If you can't find a legitimate reason to do anything, then just don't fucking do it. Yeah. So, Rye, is there anything else that you want to talk about?
No, I think we covered a good chunk of it.
Cute. All right. So I'm just going to take this time to do my usual shameless plug to anyone who has not yet joined the Patreon. I would implore anyone who hasn't to do so because it's cute. You do gain access to early episodes or early video episodes of our episodes. You get access to a whole bunch of other benefits that I am too lazy to run off right now, but go to the website, look at the benefits. If you feel inclined to do so, please do. The support that our Patreon members give us help us a great deal. It really does make a difference. And it helps produce this podcast, and we are almost in about 5 months we're gonna be hitting our 2-year mark of producing this podcast, which is pretty fucking crazy. I think we need to plan something pretty cool for our 2 years, for our 2-year anniversary, for our season finale. I don't know what that's gonna be. Our season finale last year was pretty great. Thank you, Olivia. And a great friendship actually grew from that episode because me and Olivia are just friends now, and I love her. So, yeah.
Thank y'all, Kevin, for joining us for yet another episode of the Red Text Podcast. I am your co-host, Rai, aka the Mestizo Mystic.
And I am Voga. I am Voga Lumisante.
And we'll see you next time on our next Unholy Communion.